Hey, Chris, you read with such emotion. Could you just read my sermon, too? That was powerful. That was powerful. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. Anybody here know what Sunday purity codes are? Anybody know what Sunday? Thank you. Really? Oh, I got to educate you on Sunday purity codes. Okay, all right. I got my work cut out for me. Sunday purity codes, things you couldn't do on a Sunday when I was a little kid. Now it's coming. Okay, all right. I got a few of them for you. On Sunday afternoons, well, first of all, I went to church 2 times every Sunday. Sunday morning, obviously, 9:30. 9:30. And 6 o'clock Sunday evening. So that in-between time, the afternoon, you would think, okay, a little kid can play. You can do whatever you want. Not with Sunday purity codes lurking around. On Sunday afternoons, I could play catch with my brother in the backyard with a baseball, just throw it back and forth to each other. But we couldn't walk to the end of the street where there was a ball diamond and play a competitive game of baseball. Can't do that on Sunday. It's a purity code. On a hot summer afternoon, my siblings, my sister, my brother, and I, we could stretch out a towel or a blanket in the backyard away from the street behind our house and catch some rays. We could work on our tans, and when we got hot, we could open up the hose and sprinkle our feet. But we couldn't go to Ottawa Beach and put our feet in that sand and clean our feet in Lake Michigan on Sunday. Why? We asked it. Don't bother to ask. It's a purity code. Right? Did you grow up in the same house I did? Really? How did we turn out so good? How did that happen? Huh? Maybe we're not. Okay. One more. On Sundays, we could listen to our favorite music on the radio. I always tuned into WLS in Chicago and listened to Larry Lujak. But we could not turn on the TV at any time on Sunday. Why? Because of Sunday purity codes. Now, in Jesus' day, there were deeply religious scholars and professionals known as Pharisees. They loved the tradition, and it was their task to guard the tradition with purity codes. And in the story that Chris read for us, we meet Simon, a Pharisee. And I should say, by the way, this story is recorded in all 4 Gospels. So in one of the Gospels, the woman is identified as Mary. In the other Gospels, in Luke's reading, she is not given a name. She's not identified. She is only identified or known by her illicit behavior. We might even say her illicit profession. Now, I was curious enough this past week to search and scour through various translations of the Bible. I think there are over 1,000 different versions of the Bible, and I found 6 that I chose just to enlighten who this woman was. In the 1599 Genevan Bible, believe it or not, I'm sure inspired in part by John Calvin, she is called, and I quote, a woman of the city which is a sinner. My interest was really piqued that she's not called who, she's called which. A woman of the city which is a sinner, suggesting she's not even a person, right? More a thing. I dug a little deeper and I came across the complete Jewish Bible, which I was really dumbfounded about because the complete Jewish Bible writes the New Testament in Hebrew. And that Bible labels her a Isha Kotet. Isha, woman, Kotet is a verb form of, or a verb noun form of sinner. She is a woman of sin. The New Living Translation Bible determines that she is, quote, a certain immoral woman. The New Catholic Bible identifies her as a woman of that town who was leading a sinful life. And finally, I stumbled upon a version of the Bible called The Voice, which describes the woman, and I quote, a woman of the city notorious as a woman of ill repute. When Chris read today the Eugene Peterson version of the Bible called The Message, Peterson calls her a harlot. And, you know, I thought about harlot. It sounds rather Elizabethan, like something Shakespeare would put in a play, right? Ah, she is a harlot. So I got serious, and I sought out one of the most reliable linguistic sources and scholars that I know. I turned to Jody, and I said, Jody, how would you describe this woman? And immediately she said, she's a sex worker. She's a sex worker. She needs to offer her body to stay alive. She needs to put her body on the bodies of strangers to make ends meet. She needs to monetize her flesh to keep house and home and her troubled life together. I read this passage and I see here's a sex worker kneeling at Jesus' feet. And she offers Jesus the only commodity that she has in life. Her hands, her touch, her tenderness, her tears, her alabaster oils and perfumes, her tangled hair, her devotion, her attention, and Jesus, knowing full well the other services she probably has on hand, miraculously doesn't say to her what any other respectable purity code Pharisee would have said. He never says to her, get out of here, you slut. And when the host of the evening, Simon the Pharisee, insists that she doesn't belong in the same room, Jesus thinks otherwise and accepts her without condemnation, without dire warning, without belittling her character or personhood as the tears fall upon his feet. Man, if that ain't a scandal waiting to happen. I gotta believe this nameless woman who's been used and abused by every man she's ever known, at that moment that Jesus did not condemn her, I gotta think she felt thunderstruck. You know what it means to be thunderstruck? What happens when you're thunderstruck? Anybody? Awed. Yep. Astonished. Yep. Astounded, amazed, flabbergasted, dumbfounded, speechless, wide-eyed, bowled over, at a loss for words, like, whoa, what just happened? Thunderstruck. We've all been thunderstruck at some point in our lives. Jody and I recently read together a book by a UCC pastor, Eric Elnes, E-L-N-E-S, and we would highly recommend it and commend it to your reading. It's called The Gifts of the Dark Wood. The Gift of the Dark Wood, and it's subtitled 7 Blessings for Soulful Skeptics and Other Wanderers. The dark wood, according to Eric, is understood as, we think of it as a place of fear, a place that needs to be avoided. In the dark wood, there's a There's always this atmosphere, this canopy of confusion in the dark wood. Uncertainty abounds. Emptiness arrives, and one can feel lost and tempted beyond the bounds of one's resistance. It's a place of struggle, the dark wood. It's a place of uncertainty. And I'm pretty sure we've all known times when we've been in the dark wood, or think of it as the dark canopy, the dark place. When you lose your job, you find yourself in the dark wood. When you lose your spouse, you find yourself in the dark wood. When you go through a divorce, you find yourself in the dark wood. When the cancer returns, you find yourself in the dark wood. You're in the spiritual twilight zone, so to speak. And yet, it's precisely in the dark wood, in that unfamiliar, unwanted territory, environment, when we can experience the greatest gifts that life can give us. The gift of being astonished, the gift of being loved by people we didn't realize even liked us, to be amazed and recharged and reinvigorated and repurposed. And I have to think this woman in the story from Luke, when she was walking home with her empty flask of alabaster oil and perfume, and when she realized Jesus really had lifted her up and exalted her, she was thunderstruck and astonished and amazed and dumbfounded and flabbergasted and awed and thankful and put back together. That's what happens when we pay attention to each other. That's what happens when differences aren't viewed as deficiencies. That's what happens when we sit at the feet of a holy presence that wraps its arms around us. That's what happens when an indescribable spirit that we have no vocabulary for envelops us. When troubled thoughts, long hidden, are brought to the light of day, we get thunderstruck, and life seems to take a new, fresh turn. And we get out of the dark wood. At the end of the day, this remarkable story recorded in all four Gospels, at the end of the day, the lesson is not what we stand for. The lesson always is, who do we stand with? Jesus stood with this woman when no one else would. Because Jesus knew that the question is not, do we have the right theology, whatever that means? The question is, are we standing in the right places? The only question we ever need to ask ourselves is, who do we need to be standing with? And who needs our support? Who needs our protection? Who needs our assurance? Who needs our welcome? Who needs our commendation? Who needs our prayers? Who needs our forgiveness? I wish I knew that 53 years ago. In my graduating class of Christian High in Holland, Chris, Peter, and Mike were gay. The group I hung around with knew it. Most other classmates knew it. On occasion, their names came up. But we never teased them. Nor did we ever talk to them. We were skilled. I was pretty skilled in ignoring them. Never sat next to them in the cafeteria. Never asked if they needed a ride home in my 1964 Chevy Impala. I never bothered to get to know them. They never came out. How could they? Who would understand? And more importantly, who would stand with them? 3 years ago at our 50th high school reunion, a booklet was created with the names and addresses of the graduating class. I think we had 290 students. 30 of those students had died, including Chris and Peter and Mike, 2 of whom lived in San Francisco, 1 in New York City. All 3 of them died before they were 40. I'm pretty sure it was from AIDS. Regrets can be quite haunting. And I have many. Never even said, "You're okay." Jesus was never scandalized by anyone who approached him. Never. And he certainly wasn't scandalized by the woman with the long, tangled hair and the dirty fingernails that got that way because she was always scraping by. Jesus was never scandalized. So I leave you with these powerful words from a UCC pastor called Molly Bolton, living somewhere in the Blue Ridge Mountains in North Carolina. We will not stop loving each other. We will not become hard-hearted. We will not stop weeping for each other. We will not stop lighting candles, telling stories, writing poems, singing songs. We will not stop marching, disobeying, boycotting, resisting. We will not stop telling the stories of the dead. We will not stop fighting for the living. We will not stop loving each other, no matter the sinister untruths to sway us otherwise. We will find our way back to each other. We will not stop loving each other. Amen, amen, and amen. I invite you to engage in a few moments of silent reflection. Take to your heart, O God, these reflections. Amen.